Welcome back to our final segment in our Carinine Hour. We're talking about the economy and we're talking about the commercial bank sector and the need for Bahamian-owned banks. And you were, at the break, you were commending the Bank of Bahamas to the general public in terms of being the type of organization that offers some hope for the future.
Yes.
Despite its present
That's right.
problems. But in addition to that, we have Commonwealth and Fidelity, and they're all strong in the sense of being. But we would like to see the door open so that there can be a wider ownership in part of Bahamians for banking.
Yes.
And do you know of any statement or any, if you have any information in terms of what the Ministry of Finance or through the central bank are planning in terms of opening the door for this kind of development to take place?
Well, I don't have any first-hand knowledge except that I can only read the tea leaves and see how the wind blows and how the seasons change. I suspect what will happen in the fullness of time is that the newest group of Bahamian entrepreneurs with the financial capacity, i.e. the web shop operators, will be the ones who will see the wisdom and have the capacity to develop banks. Bahamian-owned banks, banks that are going to be able to comply with, and they must comply with the regulations that will ensure confidence or inspire confidence of the investing public, but also young entrepreneurs who themselves recognize the need for funds to be put aside in the bank for entrepreneurial development and entrepreneurial activity. None of the established commercial banks, none of them, certainly not the foreign banks, are interested in entrepreneurial development. None of them. They want to take safe bets because when they report back to Canada, they want to be able to say that the performance is extremely good. Bank of the Bahamas tends to be a little more amenable because it's a local bank. It understands the culture here. It understands that in order to grow the economy, you need to take some risks. Sometimes you fail, and sometimes you end up with losses, unknown losses, as we have seen. But you know, it's not because they've shied away from taking a chance in some instances. Now, some instances they just may get it just plain wrong. But at the end of the day, what needs to happen is, in my opinion, is that there has to be a greater thrust by the banking community to provide more entrepreneurial capital, more venture capital to help people to get into business.
Because there will be no increase in entrepreneurship.
That's right.
Unless that happens.
That's right.
Because the capital must be made available for
exactly.
it. And given the size of our population, and in a sense the limited size of our commercial economy, we have to find other avenues for employment. Because there's no way in which the persons graduating from university and those graduating from high school will be automatically open for employment. It just doesn't happen.
That's right.
So we have to create more entrepreneurs and create the climate and the environment in which entrepreneurship can really take off, and it cannot take off without the capital.
That's right, and I think therein lies the real crux of the matter, and it is this: we should start to inculcate a culture of entrepreneurship at the very tender ages in our schools. We should have our children from K1 to grade 11. Or grade 12, grade 12, understand what it means to be an entrepreneur. Who were some of the best entrepreneurs in the world? What made them succeed? What factors are required in order to be a successful entrepreneur? Not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur, but to the extent that they're not given the kind of exposure at a tender age about what entrepreneurship is about, is the extent to which we're going to be delimiting their capabilities and their options in the future.
And they will feel that they have to work for someone.
That's right. That's right.
That's
right. And
look for a job.
Exactly.
As opposed to look at establishing something.
And I think it's also incumbent on government. You know, government always is keen, and I understand the political imperative to speak about creating jobs. But government also needs to take the lead in promoting entrepreneurship,
Sure.
because government has the capacity to do so.
Yes, now what we need from that is not just the capacity, but the willingness
Yes.
to
Mhm.
take genuine risks as opposed to, well, there's a tendency to give sort of jobs for the boys, meanwhile, but to deal with entrepreneurship as a matter of government policy,
That's right, exactly.
where we state clearly that X amount of dollars in the budget will be there for that purpose.
And also to remove some of the roadblocks and the
Roadblocks
red tape
yeah.
that exists for persons who have very good ideas, sound business plans, and also the financing. I know, for example, of a young group of Bahamians who have the financing to complete a project. They have done everything. They have all the virtually everything that's needed to go, but they've met one stumbling block after another that's connected to the government.
And the government then must not only talk about it, but must remove the barriers
Exactly.
and make it easier to
That's
do
right.
business.
That's right. That's right.
And to make the Bahamas a place where it is much easier to do business.
Exactly.
Because our present reputation is not very good.
It's not very
because
good, no.
People are complaining that it is too difficult to get anything done.
It takes too long.
And the red tape. And there's been a lot of talk about this, but one hasn't seen any real action in terms of removing the barriers.
Well, and I'm not sure that we've established a structure whose purpose or job it is to facilitate the removal of those barriers. And until we do that, until we say that, okay, this is the one-stop shop you go to, they are going to make certain that the work permits access, the shop license is access, the liquor license is access, the health certificate is access. You're able to pull these things together in an efficient way.
And the whole business, but the company formation,
Exactly,
and also,
exactly.
the business license, and
All of those things, yes. Because right now you spend hours in one agency after another. You can spend a week in one agency after another trying to get things done. Mind you, I'm not criticizing the agencies themselves. I work with some wonderful agencies. I worked with business license in the last few days, and I have to tell you, I cannot find a better group of business, of public servants who have been extremely responsive. But after that is done, you have to go to another department and another department and a fourth department, and they aren't all at the same level. And there must be a way to bring this all together, amalgamate it in such a way that a person knows that you will go in one door, and when you come out, you have what you need to get to go in business.
And it's up to the government to see that that happens.
That's right, that's right.
If we are serious about not just dealing with entrepreneurship in an abstract way, but in terms of dealing with our national situation, where it is impossible for us to provide employment.
That's right.
Or meaningful employment for
That's right.
a considerable sector of the population.
Sure, sure.
So we need to provide the environment in which entrepreneurship is not only talked about, but actively encouraged, and then you put in the systems that are necessary to make it happen.
Exactly. And you know, you raised, one last point I want to make on this is that if we do not do this, two things are going to happen. Those 5,000 students that come out of school every year are going to be extremely frustrated in trying to find a job, trying to find creative and productive activity. And secondly, those thousands, many thousands of Bahamians who are abroad studying, who have tremendous opportunities and gifts and talents, will not be able to find their way back home because they're going to say, you know, it's better for me, it's easy for me to stay in the States or Canada or Europe or South America, wherever it is I am, because the opportunities are greater. The hassles are not there. And that will then begin to spell the time in our society where we will not see growth, but we'll start to see
a decline.
A decline.
Yes, because certainly the group in North America is a sizable one, and comprised of persons with many gifts and talents.
Extremely so.
And why should we as a nation allow them to just drift away simply because we are not taking the necessary action locally? On the other side of the coin that you rightly mentioned are what do you call the hundreds, well, a couple of thousand
5,000 a year.
of those who leave high school. Some of them don't really graduate, they just leave high school, but and it's difficult to provide employment for them, but they prevent a social problem.
Yes.
And if we don't deal with it creatively, we will be increasing our social ills. And I think this is one of the things we need to draw to the attention of the leaders in business, not just government, that it makes good business sense for businesses to contribute to the local development for the health of the nation and to have a stable society if business is to thrive. And given the fact that we don't pay corporation tax and all that, I mean, businesses should be encouraged to make those kind of contributions to help us really diffuse what can become a big social problem.
That's right, yeah. And there are many. We've got a tremendously optimistic road ahead of us, but we also have one that's fraught with many challenges. When you look at VAT and its implementation, when you look at the referendum that's coming up soon on the Constitution, when we look at the discussion that's beginning now on national health insurance, when you look at crime and the things that we're doing for crime, we are in a real melting pot here of a conundrum of conflict and challenges that face us.
Certainly the challenges abound, and it's up to us to rise to the challenge and to have the will to face up to them honestly and to really sit down and plan. But I find that we are very deficient in the area of planning. I mean, must be the Achilles heel for the whole behavior, not just the government, but the society is not a planning society.
That's right.
And I think part of the noise about that is due to that fact that we haven't been planning.
Part of the thing on the referendum is the same thing. Yes.
So if we're going to really move forward in the future, we must plan things in a far more efficient manner and then become more committed to carrying out the plan.
Yes.
And that takes us finally to an area we can't really discuss because time is up, but we also need a better political climate if we are to grow and develop in a meaningful way.
Yes. Well, we could spend a whole hour talking about a political climate.
We just state that as a broad principle.
Yes, you're right.
But anyhow, thank you very much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
I hope that some of what we have discussed would get attention in the corridors where they should be considered.
I hope so.
And I hope you will have a very successful 2015.
And you, Your Grace.
And to our viewers, good night and God bless.